I'm a business owner, I'm thinking of selling all the way through to money in the account, right? Like, what is that journey?
Everybody's going to exit, right? I mean, you're going to exit walking out on your own 2 feet, or you're going to be carried out, but you're going to exit.
How do these owners prepare for life, post a sale?
Most business owners can't last more than 2 years. I'm CEO, I'm the president of my company. That's how I introduce myself. That's my identity. Now it's gone.
Welcome to Ask Frank. We're in 15 minutes. We normally have an expert answer one of our audience questions. But today we're really lucky to be joined by Matt Michael, who spent 20 years as the president of Service Nation, which supported small service businesses to successful exits. And most recently, he's co-authored The Business Rollercoaster with Brandon Jacob, a book built on 100 confidential conversations with former business owners about the most important financial decision of their life. So, Matt, welcome to Ask Frank.
Well, thank you. So the book started when Brandon Jacob, who's an M&A advisor, mostly focusing on the service trades, and we were hunting at his ranch in Texas, and he starts talking about how this one deal he had almost blew up because the owner couldn't get past this one emotional tick about what he's worried about his employees. And Brandon kept reassuring him, look, they're going to be fine. They aren't buying the business to fire the employees, and he couldn't get past this. And Brandon said, this comes up all the time. And I have these same problems with people. And it's like they let their emotions get in the way. He said, if there was only a book that I could hand them, like a manual I could hand them. I said, Brandon, that's a great idea. Let's write one. So we sat down and took sort of an empirical approach to it. We did 100 depth interviews. We talked to business owners in a variety of industries. I mean, everything from farming and produce to pharmaceuticals, engineering design firms, air conditioning contractors, plumbing contractors, all over the map. And, fast food restaurant owners, and all of them had gone through an exit. And so we talked to them about the process and what happened. And the way it sort of lined up is there is there's something that prompts them, some catalyst that causes them to make the decision to exit. And they may be in this mode at some time. Everybody's going to exit, right? I mean, you're going to exit walking out on your own 2 feet, or you're going to be carried out, but you're going to exit. And something prompts them, and they decide to start taking the steps. Now, there's two ways that this can go. One is it can be proactive. That was the way I did with my business. We spent a year researching investment banks and the exit process before selecting one, then another year going to market and through the process of selling. Some people are like a woman that we interviewed that's in the book, whose husband passed away. And all of a sudden she's in the middle of this incredible grief. And she realizes, I got to sell our business or it's not going to be worth anything. And so they're kind of pushed into it. And we found that the people that were more proactive tended to do better. They were more satisfied. They had greater emotional outcomes than the people that were sort of shoved into it. And that was one thing. But then once it starts, you go through the process of talking to buyers. Hopefully you talk to multiple buyers. If you're doing that, likely you're using some type of seller's agent, an M&A advisor, an investment bank, a business broker. And the people that did that had markedly better outcomes. First, the advisor was like a coach and a counselor, helped keep guys' emotions in check, because your emotions swing all over the map when you're going through this. You're worried about this thing or that thing. You're worried about your employees. You're worried that the business is going to crash while you're going through this sales process. There's a lot of concerns that you have, and they help kind of keep that going, talk you off the ledge, tell you what's not, don't worry about your employees again, for example. Then you finally reach the point where you pick a company, you go through the dance with them. They send you an LOI that you like, and you sign that LOI, and that's like, hallelujah, what an awesome day. Right.
Yeah.
And I think in the opening,
that's just the starting point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's great about it is you've got all of the benefits. You're imagining all this money coming in. You're thinking of all the things you can do with it. It's all seems real now. It's something. It's like it's tangible. It's going to happen, and it may happen. It may fall apart, which is another part of the emotional swings that you go through. But you've got all of the gain and none of the pain of due diligence, which is to come. And so then from there, you start the ugly process of due diligence. Now, it's ugly, but it's also really beneficial. And the reason that I say it's beneficial is due diligence covers both the buyer and the seller, and it results in the absence hopefully in the absence of lawsuits after the sale is made.
Yeah.
We know in one case where we interviewed someone, there wasn't a good due diligence process, and it was because the buyer really didn't know what he was doing. And in the end, he accused the seller of all kinds of malfeasance, and it ended up ugly, and it went to court. And if they had had adequate due diligence, that wouldn't have happened. So I, from that standpoint, as painful as it is, welcome the due diligence process. Now, you're going through this and you're trying, do I tell my employees? Do I not tell my employees? Who do I bring in? Do I read in somebody to help me? And these are, each one of these is filled with trauma for people. They worry about this more than they should. Like, now, what should I do for my employee at the end of this? Do I reward them? Do I pay them sort of a guilt indulgence? And guys feel guilty when they sell the business, and they're taking this big, cash payout, and they realize, all of them, if they're smart, they realize that it was a whole team that built this company up. But at the same time, they're the ones that took the risk, right? Without them, there wouldn't be a business in the first place. If business fails, their employees are out of a job. The owner is out of pretty much everything. So, absorbing all that risk for a period of time weighs on them, but they still feel a little guilty. They feel a little bit of imposter syndrome. Some of them, reward the key people. Some of them reward everybody, and they spend quite a bit of money doing this. Some of them can't afford to because they don't sell for enough. So all that's part of it.
I'd love to understand, like in the book, the mechanics of what the roller coaster actually entails, right? So, I'm a business owner. I'm thinking of selling all the way through to money in the account, right? Like what is that journey?
So the first part of it is getting buyers. So, you've got to find buyers for your company, buyers for your business. How do you do that?
Yeah.
Now some people, there's a lot of private equity action going on in the States, and some people will take the phone call and they choose to answer the phone, and there's somebody trying to feel them out about selling their business. And I equate it to living in your house, and all of a sudden you get a knock on the door, and you open the door, and there's guys say, "Man, I love this house. I want to buy it. I'll give you $200,000 for it." You think, $200,000 for this place? Sure. Right. And only after the fact do you realize that it was really worth $400,000, and you can't replace it. And that's, and people get money whipped all the time. And that's a mistake that people make. The other thing they might do is they might say, well, I'm going to sell the company, but they don't really know how. So they stick it for sale, or I'm going to sell my house and I don't know how. So I'm going to stick it for sale by owner sign in the front yard and hope that the right buyer drives by. But if he drives one street over, he's never going to see it. So that's part of it. And then there's the, and then you can use a realtor. So you use a realtor to help you sell your house. They will get it in the multiple listing service. So it will appear in front of the eyes of lots of potential buyers, and hopefully you'll get multiple people wanting to buy your house, and it will result in a auction. And it's a longer process, but the realtor also does things like, let me give you some tips on how you can make your house sell for more and sell faster. That lime green wall, maybe you should paint it beige. Right.
Yeah.
Maybe you should, and maybe you should take this out of your house, or maybe you should do this. And as they're going through the process, people don't know what's a good price, what's a bad price. That's part of where the realtor will help them understand the market value. Same way that an M&A advisor or an investment bank will help you understand the market value.
I mean, it is one of the benefits, right, of using a broker, is they take the emotion. Well, an investment banker, they take the emotion out of it. And I think, talking about buying that house when you've got a competitive process being run, everyone wants a piece of it.
And it's, so we use the analogy early in the book to try to help people understand the disadvantage that you've got as a seller, especially if you're dealing with private equity. You've never played for money. And the guy you're playing with has played that course multiple times, and he's played for a lot of money. At the very least, you're going to want to get the best caddy you can find to help you with shot selection and, calm you down when you get, and if you try to save money because you really don't want to tip the caddy that much money, and you're going to do it on your own, you're going to screw up, and, you're going to make mistakes, and you're not even going to know some of the mistakes you make, and you're going to get a lot less. And we saw that in the book, but some people rolled too much equity forward. There's especially with private equity, they'll buy your company and they'll want you to roll money forward. They call it the second bite of the apple. And so, don't you want a second bite of the apple? And it's always a 3 to 5x return, cash on cash, in 2 to 3 years, and it rarely is that fast. It can be that much, and it can be great, but it's speculative, right? Anything that you don't get on the day of close is speculation. And if you roll more than you need forward, you better hope that it comes through.
I guess that's kind of where your dual due diligence comes in, right? Like you mentioned, it's actually doing due diligence. I mean, if you do sell to private equity, right, you want to make sure that this outfit knows what they're doing. They've done it. I imagine it's a roll-up strategy, right? They've done one of these
Right.
before, and you're actually able to tie either some form of comparables that they've done, for a similar style of industry to actually understand whether or not, rolling your equity forward is a good idea.
But that's tough. So you talk to your buddy who's sold, maybe even somebody who's sold to the same private equity group, and they're not going to tell you, man, I screwed up. I shouldn't have rolled so much forward. This was a mistake. Keep your company, go find another private equity group. No, they're going to sell it. And it's a classic thing. It's like, I used to be in franchising, and when we had a prospective franchisee, we'd always encourage them to talk to our existing franchisees. None of them are going to tell you, man, these guys, they're sharks. Don't do this. They're going to take a bunch of your money. They're not going to they're not going to deliver. I mean, we tried to, that wasn't my company, but still, it was a strategy that you see often in the franchise world. And so it's the same thing. You talk to somebody else who's done it, and nobody's going to want to say, man, I was a dumbass and I made a lot of, I shouldn't have done this. So they're going to sell you on it. So, but what you can do is have an advisor who knows, who talks to you, works out the number that you need at close to live the life that you want to live going forward. I'll give you an example. A guy called me up, a buddy of mine called me up and said, hey, I just got offered $4 million for my company. What do you think? And I said, well, Chris, that's great. Well, let's talk about it for a second. He says, okay. So you're going to pay 23.8% in capital gains and Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, and taxes. So a quarter of your company is already gone to the government from that. So you're going to have $3 million left, and you're going to invest that, and hopefully you're going to get a return around 8%. And most wealth managers will tell you need to roll at least 3% forward of that to keep up with inflation. So that's going to give you 5% of that to live on. So 5% of $3 million, that's $150,000 a year. That's not bad. Can you live on $150,000 a year? There's this big pause. He finally says, not the way I am living today. So he elected not to sell, and that's where you're getting the emotion of getting the money and the number of zeros, gets in the way of simple logical analysis.
How, after interviewing 100 people, how do these owners prepare for life, post a sale?
That's a great question. And that really is almost the question. And it's the most important part of the book. So let's go back to selling your house, right? So when you sell your house, you're usually selling it with an idea that you're going to move into another house, and you very quickly shift all of your thoughts and attention to that new house. And that becomes your focus, and your old house is kind of forgotten. It may be fond memories. But what if you don't have a house? You're going to be kind of obsessed with that old house. You're going to drive by it, look at it. They sell their companies. They stay on for a while. Most owners buyers want you to stay on. Most business owners can't last more than 2 years. But I tell you, it wasn't enough. There wasn't enough purpose in it. I went through a little bit of a depression, which is common for extroverts and type A personalities who are business owners and sell. It also hurts you on your identity. So for all these years, I'm CEO, I'm the president of my company. That's how I introduce myself. That's my identity. Now it's gone. Right. So
I'd love, maybe just as a final question, is there one conversation that really, again, stuck with you? And I'd love to understand, why it stuck with you, and whether or not, it changed the advice that you give, or how you view business and how you view exiting.
So there was one person that we talked to who I'm going to give you two. There was one person we talked to who had $20 million in loans that he had personally guaranteed for his business. And when he sold, he was able to retire all of that. And the sense of relief that gave him, that this overwhelming, risk and heaviness had weighed on him his entire tenure. And there was a stress there that he didn't even realize until after he walked away. And now that's gone. There was a similar story, but sort of different. Is there was a person who was sued, and it was a frivolous lawsuit, and he beat it, but it wasn't easy. And he was struck that 12 people who didn't know anything about him or his business could devastate him. They could bankrupt him and that he couldn't get past that. And so he took his company to market, sold it for a very healthy price, and that sense of relief. And, we asked every one of them, would you take your business back and return the money today? And, do you have any regret?
Question.
Yeah.
It's a great question.
And we certainly did it on the people that expressed regrets or remorse, and none of them would give the money back and take the business back. So there is regret and remorse, but apparently it has its limits.
It's got its price as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, thank you so much